Chapter 7. Heading for Home. When you get in trouble, head for home. That's the first thing that comes into my head after me and Worm get clear of the alley. The Undertaker doesn't follow us, which sort of surprises me. Somebody takes away his stepdaughter and he just lets her go? Of course, he's got his hands full after what he did to his poor wife. Worm lets me carry her out of the basement apartment, but then she wants to walk on her own. When I ask if she's okay, she doesn't say a word, but she reaches out and takes my hand. Grim and Graham will know what to do, I promise her. We can hear sirens wee-wooing in the distance, and I'm thinking they'll be putting the cuffs on the Undertaker so he can't hurt anybody else. I don't even want to think about what will happen to Worm or what she should do until he's locked up in jail and can't hurt her anymore. We're cutting across the backyards, heading for home because Graham will make everything okay somehow. Hey, after dealing with a big donut brain like me, helping an 11-year-old girl should be easy, right? Wrong. Because when we come up to the back of the house, there are blue lights flashing through the windows. Cop cars in the street. Something in my brain goes, uh-oh. I put my finger to my lips, and Worm nods and doesn't make a sound. There's a row of thick hedges that runs close to one side of the house, between our yard and the neighbors. I used to hide in there when I was little, after my mom died, but before Kevin moved next door. I hide myself in the hedges and pretend I was far away inside the forest where it was green and cool, and the good smell of leaves and earth made me feel safe. Grim and Graham knew about the secret hedge place, but they never let on. I'm way too big to hide in there now, but if I crouch real low and keep my head down, I can still look around to the front yard without being seen. And what I see there just about blows my mind. The Undertaker. He's with the cops, but he's not in handcuffs. He's acting all weepy and upset, and he's telling the police the biggest bunch of lies you ever heard. He was after Rachel, menacing her, and when my wife tried to stop him, he hit her. It never happened that way, but he sounds like he believes it. He wipes his eyes and sniffles a bit and says, "You've got to catch him and lock him away before he does my girl any harm." The cops don't say much, except they tell the Undertaker to stay back. By now the front door has opened, and Grim and Graham have come out on the steps. The blue lights make them look pale and old. "What happened?" Graham asked, real worried. "Is it Max? Did something happen to Max?" One of the cops says, "Is your grandson home, ma'am? We'd like a word with him." The Undertaker hears that and goes nuts. "A word?" he shouts. "The boy assaulted my wife and ran off with our girl. Arrest him!" Grim kind of staggers and grabs hold of Graham, and they're holding each other up and looking sick. Grim says, "Impossible. There must be some kind of mistake. Max wouldn't hurt a soul." The other cop pipes up and says, "Maybe he doesn't know his own strength, sir. Have you seen him in the last few hours?" Graham's voice is shaking. He went down to the mill pond," she says, "to the park. He goes there almost every day." The Undertaker charges up behind the cops, waving his hat around. "See," he shouts, "I told you. He followed us home from the park, just like I said." Grim straightens up and goes, "You'd better tell us what happened, officer." The cop doesn't look too happy about it, but he clears his throat and goes, "This man says a youth fitting Maxwell's description broke into their apartment and ran off with an 11-year-old girl. While trying to stop him, the girl's mother received several blows to the face." "And the woman told you Max attacked her?" Grim asks. "She agrees with her husband," the cop says with a shrug. Grim's voice gets stronger. "Then it wasn't our Max. Couldn't have been." The other cop goes, "I'm afraid Maxwell was seen leaving the scene of the crime, carrying the girl. There's really nobody else who fits the description, sir. I mean, a boy that big? The door was broken down, knocked right off the hinges. Graham has a quiet kind of voice, but I hear her clear as a bell. Listen to me, you people. There has been a mistake. Max will be home any minute and he can explain for himself. Inside, I'm going, good for you, Graham. And I'm thinking maybe I should come out and tell everybody what really happened and how the Undertaker is a total liar. Why shouldn't they believe me instead of him? Then Graham says something that makes my heart drop down into my shoes. It wasn't Max who broke down the door and kidnapped the girl, Graham says. Our boy would never do such a thing. I assume you're taking fingerprints? The cops both nod. Good, says Graham, like everything is settled. That will prove it isn't our grandson. Fingerprints. Mine will be all over that door I busted down. And besides, I really did break in and run off with the worm. That part is true. The Undertaker is wiping his eyes with his floppy black hat. Poor Rachel, he says. My little girl. We'll find her, one of the cops tells him. Maxwell Kane is too big to hide. The other cop pats him on the back and says, You'll get your daughter back, I promise. Worm moans and goes, I knew it. Nobody can stop him. That's when I decide there's only one right thing to do. Run away with Worm to a place where the Undertaker can't find her.